Hello and welcome in. I am Kermit418. Today we're going to be building the SimXPro X80. We fast forwarded a lot through this video. There are sections throughout it where we slowed it down. You can hear me engaging with live stream with specific instructions. But with that, please feel free to leave a comment with any questions you guys may have. Let's go. Hello and welcome back. Just like last video, we're going to be doing a voiceover in between the specific instructions. Here's the first. Then you got the little peanut, as I call it, and this one has the locking ball. So you push the little locking ball down, and then it doesn't slide out when you tilt it. Woo, good to go. So that was one of the nice things about this build, is that the T-nuts did come with the locking ball that keep them from sliding around. Whenever you're trying to build this by yourself, it was convenient not having to worry about the T-slides sliding out. So once you got them in place with the hole, the screw is already lined up. You don't have to worry about it sliding around everywhere. So I have the instructions that were provided posted here on the video. These are all the instructions that came with the kit. So as you're putting in the T-nuts, the thread and the bearing are on opposite sides of the T-nuts. So I tried to put the thread side of the T-nut facing the same direction on every one. Otherwise, the thread and the T-nut might be a little off just because of the side that they're on. Here I'm talking about if the outside of the base goes on the outside of the cross members or butts up against it. And they do in fact go on the outside. So the corner brackets are mounted with corner brackets. There's 4 bolts in each one. So it was pretty easy to do this first section right here with those. But one thing I didn't do is I didn't mount the brackets to the cross members first, and that's what I would actually recommend. So whenever you're doing it the other way, you run into a situation where the cross member doesn't butt up against the actual the outside, and it's only the bracket. So we're going to talk about the credit card length here in a minute, but I would do the credit card length across all brackets. You have the group. So earlier I showed that I went in on the end, popped in the little pit there, and then you can slide it, right? Here you go. But you can also take it in the middle of the profile, insert the one side, and then it's not fully seated, but you just push down, and you can still get it seated in there, right? And then you can still slide it. Notice you're sliding it and it's not scratching any of the metal. Okay, hold on. So once you get that first cross member in, you can't slide it in from the ends on the second one. So you kind of have to pop them in either before you put it down there, or you can slide them in the middle. That's what I was referring to there. Then I'm going to talk about putting the T-nuts in the center and working towards the bracket. Away from the edge, right? And then as I lay that in place, I have a mounting bracket that covers up this whole, I don't know, 1.5 inches of metal here, where if I put the T-slot right on the edge, maybe where it's going to be, it's covered up by the metal and I can't move it as what happened earlier. So putting them out in the middle, the bracket's covering it, but then I can easily push it into and line up the hole, where if it's here, I can't easily push it and line up the hole. Go to the center, easy to push. I didn't move the T-nut off the edge, so it was in the center. Fun fact. And this is the upright that's going to go like this, right? So the mounting brackets go on either side, 2 each. And what the directions are saying is when it's laying flat, it's going to be obviously mounted vertically. These go on the side. Okay? What the directions say is when it's laying flat, make sure this bracket is lifted up off the surface, like the width of like a credit card. As you can see, I'm scraping metal on metal, and there's still no marks. Here comes the Callahan Auto Racing Pit Viper instructions on why I have Pit Vipers on. We got them, buddy. I can have a guitar. I can have a gun. I'm ready to go. All right. So that's for Callahan. So the Pit Viper, I'll have to explain to YouTube as I upload this. They're like, why does this guy have a Pit Viper on? Callahan wanted a Pit Viper viewing. There we go. We got it. So I'll explain to YouTube that Channel Point Redemption 3000 frog leg will get you the Pit Vipers. And there they are. The Pit Vipers. We're going to put these right here. So I didn't have an issue with the two cross members, but the uprights did cause a little issue. And it had to do with the credit card length. In that you can kind of see there in the bottom side of that, there's a gap. So I think I created too large of a credit card length on that top side. And whenever I put the top bracket in, it pulled the bottom away from the frame. And because it was pulled away, I couldn't reach the threads on the T-nut on the opposite side. So when it says credit card length, I highly recommend either getting a legitimate credit card, or what I tried to do unsuccessfully is fold one of the instructions that are posted throughout the video in half and use that as the credit card length. But if you put too big of a gap, it's going to pull the post one side too far, and you won't be able to get the threads in on the other side. Shout out to my cousin, Blind Symmetry Fishing Lure Painting. Yeah, he's the one that bought me this Swiss Army knife. So go ahead, Blind Symmetry YouTube channel. He airbrushes fishing lure. It looks like fish. It's phenomenal. So here I'm just putting the rubber feet on the bottom of the base. You'll notice that I didn't flip over the base because it's the same on the top and the bottom at this point, right? No uprights are on there. Rather than flip it, I'm just putting them on the top. How that's rotating as much as it is. Oh God. Oh God. Oh. Well, because as you can see, they just slide in and out because they're not tightened down. So let's put that back on. Obviously, I would recommend tightening those bolts before you try to flip it over for those dempers, the rubber feet. So now we're moving on to the pedal plate. Unfortunately, you can't really see the pedal plate on the camera, but it's kind of self-explanatory as far as the mounting of the pedal plate. You have vertical holes on the front and the back of the pedal plate. Holes in the front here, right? And if I had to increase how high the back is, I can just have it resting on the bolt rather than having the bolt through the hole. Okay, so I can rest on the bolt or put the bolt in the hole as long as the front is through the hole. So those series of holes will adjust how much of an angle. What I was saying there is that if you put the front ones through the hole, the back doesn't need to be in the hole. It can be resting on the bolt that's mounted to the frame itself. Me personally, I have 4 bolts on my pedal plate. 2 in the front, 2 in the back, using the holes. It doesn't move. You saw me in the video, I'm bouncing on it, no flex. I'm using the CSL Elite with the load cell kit. I've done majority oval racing, not a lot of heavy braking there, but I did mess around Daytona Road and Monza and doing some practice laps, and 0 flex to the pedal plate. So I can't complain about that. So now I'm going backwards, right? So I didn't understand the directions in the beginning as far as the uprights. I don't know why, but I thought the outside base were referring to them as the uprights, but they were in fact referring to the uprights that the steering wheel mount to. So this is where I'm going back and trying to get that mounted. I spent probably 30 to 40 minutes getting this mount in, largely due to the twisting that I was talking about as far as getting the one bolt in too far and then having to get that credit card length to avoid it pulling away from the other side. So credit card length, make sure we're not putting too much of a gap there, and get one side just finger tight, couple threads in, and then get the other side naturally tightened down. Then you'll be good to go with that. I hope this video is helpful. Again, it took probably 5 hours in total to build this. I obviously didn't want to upload a 5-hour YouTube video. I'm also live streaming, so it's, you know, I'm interacting with chat every now and then. I'm walking around, I'm looking for a tool. I cut a lot of that. I'm looking for the T-nut behind the brackets, right? There's a lot of learning curve at the beginning of this that I'm hoping I can help answer any questions you guys have, either through the little tutorial slowdowns we have throughout this, or if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask. I think SimXPro is a relatively new company, so I feel like it's going to be growing. There's going to be more and more people getting these rigs. So I wanted to get this out there to try to help address some of the issues that I ran into while I was building it. I will say, now that I've had this built and using it for the last week, I've stripped 2 bolts, and I'll take, I don't know whether it's 50-50 as far as the tools that I'm using, right? It's not a great socket wrench that I'm using. And there's some tight areas, specifically underneath the seat, that I was trying to tighten bolts. Didn't have it completely seated in the bolt there, and in fact did strip. So it seems like the bolts themselves are pretty soft. I'm no bolt expert, if you will, but I feel like the bolts could have been maybe a little bit higher quality to avoid that stripping. And yeah, you can see I'm still struggling with that upright. That was the hardest part, I think. And it was literally, you know, just mounting a corner bracket on, but I just couldn't get it in. So now all the uprights are on. I've tightened down the majority of the bolts. I'm tightening down the feet here. Really, there was no need to not tighten this feet down all the way whenever you were on that step in step 2. So as far as the frame, I kept everything loose, but the feet, you can go put those on. So this should be step 4. That's going to be posted here in a second. But I have the CSL DD wheel, and I went with the front mount, side to front mount. So that didn't come with any instructions. You just kind of go off an image on the internet and execute. It's really not that complicated though. But if you don't upgrade, this is step 4. And what it is you're uploading, or excuse me, you're installing the cross member that goes between the 2 uprights. And then what will happen is the wheel mount itself will mount to that cross member you can see in the bottom right of your screen. And then that's step 6. Step 5 is going to be the seat mounts. I'm not sure why they go 4 for the cross member, go to the seat mounts, and then go back to 6 for the wheel mount. But that's just the way that they do it. And again, these are the only instructions that they provided in the entire build. So very rudimentary instructions. There are YouTube videos that they actually tell you to use for the build. I didn't use any of those. I just kind of went off this little paper and went for it. It's not overly complicated. So it's just a matter of understanding the T-nuts, and sometimes they do get lost and you can't fit your finger in the groove. I did keep a wire tie handy, and or a cable tie, and I would use the cable tie to push the T-nut in the groove to get it aligned where it needed to be, and that was pretty effective. So a cable tie is useful, 1, cable management, but 2, to slide those T-nuts in the grooves of the profile. So this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier as far as the groove the threads in the T-nut. So on the seat mount, the hole in that corner bracket is centered on the bracket, obviously. And if you put the threads on the outside of the seat mount that's going across, what your seat will mount to directly, or your seat mounts will bolt to, the bracket will overhang because it's being centered off of the threads. You could slide it in, but then your profile will overhang the bracket. I hope that's probably clear as mud. But the seat mounts, the seat brackets, I just took a photo, as you can see there. That's photo provided. This is the last step. So I hope this is helpful. Go ahead, If it was helpful, leave a like, leave a comment. We'll see you next time.